Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's workshop for International Discounter Alignment. Today, we're talking about International Discounter Alignment for the year 2022. So this is a future-looking view of your customers, and it's an international view. So we're going to talk mostly about coordinating activities across multiple countries. The big thing I want you to sort of think about as we go through the agenda is this transformation that's underway, as best illustrated by this photo on the left, which is the 20-year anniversary of Lidl in Austria. They opened the first store, which looked like that little Polaroid snapshot in 1998. And the latest stores look a lot more like the one in the photo on the left. In this sort of transformation, I guess one of the questions that we'll be trying to raise is, do we see this transformation happening at a faster rate than in the past, or the same rate, or even slower? So I'll give my point of view in the first section called the Big Picture View, and that will talk about everything that we'll be touching on today. My colleagues will then go into more detail, starting with the leadership model as the second topic, the shopper as the third topic, this sort of new environment for discounters, which is digital, then going to assortment localization and marketing localization, and then wrapping up with an action plan and Q&A. To help you along your journey for planning for 2022 and beyond, we've developed this very simple framework, which I call the 3Fs, and it starts with field, meaning the workforce that the discounters have, and Frank just mentioned it's a real challenge. Then it's fame, which is how the discounters connect with consumers, whether that's localizing the marketing, localizing the price messages, even personalizing the price messages. It's this whole process of connecting and becoming famous for doing something well. And then the third is fortune, which is around profits and how to generate profits as the world changes. What we were also seeing is this sort of old school way of thinking about supply chain, but then opening it up to the consumer. So in Australia, Aldi has opened up their supply chain so that the consumer can see exactly what products are in what supply. So the example with Cadbury on the left and the licensed mugs on the right, you can see by store and by distance, which stores have high levels of stock, which ones are out of stock. And so the question that we raise for you as a supplier is it better to be green, or is it better to be orange, or is it better to be red in this new world where the discounters are opening up their supply chain? And we're seeing this sort of switch back in time with the private label theme. The big difference, and this is from Serbia, with XXL packs, is they've shifted. Historically, XXL has had some brands. This is the first time where we're seeing almost 100% private label being used in the XXL week. And the reaction from the rest of the trade has been very dramatic here in Serbia, with the leading supermarket brands having 5 basic reactions. So they've taken on comparable SKUs, which is their own private label or a branded product, a strong percentage off, whether that's 14% or higher. They've extended the promotional periods for their private labels from a week to 2 weeks to even a month, I've seen. And I think if I had to emphasize one thing in today's 3-hour presentation, it'd be this. We've got to find ways to be efficient, even if the discounters are trying new ways which are less efficient. So this is really important to get right. There's usually a 2-step or 3-step process to this. So step 1 is to try the new idea. Step 2 is to launch the new idea, and probably step 3 is to make it profitable. And as we think about this, it's really obvious using a UK example that the biggest advantage that the discounters have may no longer be that they're the fastest growing in terms of overall growth rate. Probably what we're seeing is that they have the biggest budgets to do something pretty cool, pretty different. And I guess the question, and we'll let Frank answer this, is where they're going to spend that big budget. But the future is clear, which is in certain markets like London or Paris, Lidl has set a potential very difficult to achieve objective of saying, for example, we'll get to 300 stores in London. Today they've got 100, so they've got to add another 200 stores. And a lot of those 100 are outside of the city center. We're seeing them try to get into the city center, which ultimately means different assortment for different neighborhoods. What we do know is that no matter how you look at it, to improve EBIT, the discounters need brands, and you can see this in this marketing that we're seeing. At the top, they've got the volume brands, which are very sharply priced. And as you work your way down, it's trade-up brands. And I would encourage you to think of yourself in that way, but also in terms of the benchmarking top to bottom. You don't want to be too much higher than the average. So you can see the top average retail price $199, the middle $266, and then the bottom $285. You want to stay within these ranges when you're thinking about retail selling prices.
Here from Lidl, what you read in the last months or in the last weeks, these big bang that Mr. Lidl was leaving or is leaving Lidl, Klaus Gehrig. Yes, he is Mr. Lidl. He was Mr. Lidl. He was the driving part behind this success as a person, and everybody was focused on him. But he alone, he was never capable to build such a company. From this perspective, there's a saying at Lidl, look, there is a system power and a personal power, and we are focused on system power.
What I'm going to try to do over the next 20 minutes or so is actually take a look at the micro environment, go down to the shopper's perspective when it comes to shopping in discounters. Now, if you look at the way the pandemic has influenced household behavior, and if we break that into two main themes, shopping behavior and consumption behavior. So the main themes under shopping, obviously one that is in everyone's mouth and in everyone's mind is actually the rise of e-com. It is true, as you can see here from the share price of Ocado, which actually rose drastically after the introduction of the restrictions. E-com is here to stay. However, what did change and what did make people's life much different, especially in bigger urban cities, in bigger cities, is the growth of last mile delivery. Discounters were not quite ready to take on the e-com growth. So they did not necessarily capitalize on the growth of buying online. However, in many countries where they have a kind of a local store profile, location, a good grid of location of stores across the country, they have capitalized on the trend for convenience shopping smaller trips into stores in your neighborhood. Now, on the consumption front, and you've definitely heard a lot about it. I don't need to tell you how the consumption habits changed, especially due to people having to stay at home more than they did before. Not going into the office, children not going into schools led to new occasions of consumption at home. And many times that makes us think about cooking at home, which is definitely true. But we have to realize that with people spending more time at home, an extra need for interesting, indulgent shopping came about. So we had themes like, we saw in the UK, the sparkling wine category grow dramatically through the pandemic because people wanted to have more enjoyment while they're spending time at home. And on the other hand, we saw the dramatic growth of food delivery like Mindful Chef that actually brought some oomph to people's day-to-day meals. And that is still to stay. This trend is very relevant for discounters as well. And I think that going forward, Ray touched upon the theme of multi-layered offers in meals, in cooking ingredients and meals with discounters. I think this is here to stay. So they're going to be offering more options, high-end options, to take advantage of the growth in indulgence meals at home. On the habits that have changed through COVID, What are we seeing in terms of people going back to their previous habits? Well, we are seeing a decline in the percentage, a slight decline in the percentage of people shopping for groceries, because essentially, as you are being able to spend more time outdoors, people, and that's an example of what Brits were expecting to do, people are looking forward to going back to spending in HoReCa, in hotels, restaurants, and cafeterias.
They have a special label, Bestes aus der Region, here in brown, the best from the region, where they only list suppliers that are geographically located within 30 kilometers of the store. In the Czech Republic, from 2019, they are even the #1 retailer, which was unimaginable 5, 6, 7 years ago, that a discounter with a limited assortment would become the #1 retailer. What discounters do here, a short summary in Germany. Lidl is very sophisticated, also what Ray showed, connecting with the digital. Aldi seems still to be in a phase of trial and error. And Aldi, what is important for suppliers, Aldi Nord is aware that they have overpaid brands in the past. They are renegotiating prices currently. Lidl finances the price wars in Germany as well as the expansion in the US, among others, through their very good margin in Central and Eastern Europe.
Lidl is very good at copying a good idea and making it their own. I would encourage you to look at the bottom of this list for what Lidl's going to do next, as opposed to the top of the list.
I think that there's so much more that Lidl and Aldi can do by connecting with their shoppers across platforms with a real focus on mobiles. And we've seen that a lot through the rise of online purchases. If you don't have an app for it, most likely you're not going to be successful. So digital definitely, but not just about selling, but about connecting with people.
Look, they attract so many people physically, yeah, and all of that is potential, or most of them are potential to touch them digital as well, yeah. And you can see it in with Lidl Plus. Lidl Plus is the most downloaded app was the most downloaded app in Germany.
It is about getting more share of wallet of the existing physical customers. When this gets stronger, and from my impression, Lidl is changing their Lidl Plus app every 2 months in Poland. They're trying new mechanics. I think in the next 2-3 years, latest, we will see that Lidl sophisticates and really gets the personalization, individualization better, and consequently will increase share of wallet, but also basket size from existing customers.
Is Aldi and Lidl has always the disadvantage, many years the disadvantage, because they have brands, and then the price awareness of the customer due to the higher prices of brands, the price awareness of Lidl was worse than Aldi, yeah, and that cost them many years and a lot of money to be equal, and now even to have a slightly fortune on that, yeah, slightly fortune on that. And look, if raw material prices are rising up, for sure, during the time, you will have a price raise as well. And nobody at Lidl will just say, look, it's not possible. They know what is in the market. They know how the products are produced. Yeah, they are producer on one hand. They are even producing by themselves. They know all these problems. Yeah, and there's not just a hard wall, because that doesn't make sense. You can't kill your supplier, not giving him the money. Yeah, then you kill yourself.
So if you are going into the area of speaking more about the marketing or more about the targeting, make sure that you make it something that the person on the other side of the table can touch in terms of what it will bring back for them in the end of the day.
We had one topic that was called channel borders are blurring. So Lidl is developing more into the supermarket segment, because in Central Eastern Europe, there are no strong supermarkets. They are going digital at the same time. Kaufland, just looking at the assortment in Poland, a year ago, they had 18,000 SKUs. Now they're at 22,000. They still want to go higher. So they are doing something to differentiate from Lidl also from the customer point of view. At the same time, even if big area is not growing as fast as the small areas and the discounters, Kaufland has enough money, as they did it one by one with Tesco, to buy up the ailing other hypermarket concept, and so they will get market share. So what I'm saying is they are developing now away from each other, which is very important from the customer point of view, which is also very important from a market share point of view regarding competition agencies and taxes and so on. But I don't think that they are trying to find a position that is from a setup farther away from each other than it was still 5 years ago. So there may be some rest animosity or positive competition within the group, but from a strict market point of view, I think they are trying to cover the market on different segments.
Excellent, excellent.